Hi everyone, it's Lynn here again, bringing the Manukau Photographic Society Club Competition for May 2020 to you again in a virtual sense. I hope that you are still doing well in lockdown, a few more days of level 3, and hopefully we'll be in level 2 and be able to see each other again. So just like last time, I'm going to go through and read the judges' critiques. Those images that have got highly commended or an honours will have the author's name revealed. And then at the end of each section, we will find out who the top open image, and the top set image. So let's just get underway with the open newcomer grade. And this image called Country Girl. This is an excellent portrait, particularly for a newcomer. The lighting creates soft shadows and giving shape and depth to her face. The catchlights add life to the eyes. I like the pose and her expression commands attention. I'd like to suggest giving a little more room for her arm on the left. I think that would lessen the visual tension created by being too close to the edge. And that's an honours for Dennis Tohovaka. And now we've got the open images open grade, starting with Agapanthus, a lovely, soothing, high-key piece of art with lovely colour tones. I find my eye drawn to the large horizontal bud in the back and wonder if the overall composition of the image would be better without it. And that's a highly commended for Pauline Smith. At the waterside, the author has used intentional camera movement to create an impressionistic shot and create more interest in an otherwise ordinary scene. I like the use of bold colour. The placement of the main character has been done well within the frame for my eye. Near it. Busy Bee. A good macro study of the bee. Sharp in all the details. I feel enough room has been left around the insect to show the environment. That's a highly commended for Teresa Simpson. Calm. A simple but effective image, striking in its contrasts of light and dark. I like the reflection and I wonder if there was any more of it captured in the raw image, as it would have been nice to include it all in the final image. Near it. Caught. A wonderfully well-timed shot capturing all the action and drama of the game and highlighting the moment the ball was caught. I like the riot of horse legs kicking up the dirt. I can almost hear the thunder of hooves. The different expressions on the riders' faces adds to the story. There is good separation of the riders from each other, and the contrast against the sky makes their rackets really stand out. The black and white treatment has eliminated any distractions that colour may have caused. Nice work indeed, and that's an honours for Lynn Fothergill. Cookbook. This looks like a much-loved, well-thumbed recipe book. I find myself wanting to reach in and browse through the pages. Accepted. Floppy Hat. A cute portrait. It is often difficult to get enough light in the eyes of people wearing hats, but the author did well here, even managing to include a catchlight. It may be my screen, but the image looks a little cool to me. I see a lot of magenta in the shadows. Perhaps the author would like to try tweaking the white balance to create a warmer feel and improve the skin tones. Near it. Golden beech leaves. A nice study of the leaves, the light glowing through them and contrasting well against the background. The author might like to widen the aperture in order to blur the background more. The golden colour could also be enhanced by reducing the magenta in the shadows. Near it. High tide at the boat ramp. The water is really sharp in the foreground and I like the abstract feel created by the reflections. The silhouetted posts form a pleasant triangular shape. The author might like to try shooting the scene again when there is more dramatic light. Some shadows on the water would add an extra element of interest. I note some grey spots between the front posts which look like processing issues. Accepted. Hydrangea. I find this image quite busy and contrasty. There seems to be a loss of detail in the white brights. Perhaps some more experimentation with compositional cropping and an angle of view would help with the overall appeal. Accepted. And the open image of the night goes to Country Girl by Dennis Tohovaka. Well done, Dennis. Now we'll move on to the set images. Set subject this month is man-made, and here we have the entries from the newcomer grade. Seen better days. I like that the author has chosen to include just a section of the vehicle, concentrating our attention on the wheel arch, being the lightest part of the image. It is well exposed and shows plenty of texture, even in flat light conditions. I feel the image is cropped a little too tight at the top. Leaving more room adds balance and lessens the visual tension. Merit. St. Paul's Cathedral. We don't often see architecture shot at night. This can be tricky finding an even exposure with such extremes of light and dark, and I feel the author has done very well not to clip either end of the dynamic range. The overall composition is very pleasing to my eye, the painted lines of the road acting as leading lines to the building. The lightest part, the dome, has been placed comfortably on the upper third. The shutter speed is just long enough to show some movement in the pedestrians, and the aperture closed enough to create starbursts in the lights. Very nice work. That's in honours for Dennis Tohovaka. Now the set man-made for open. The first one is Abandoned Ship. Great texture and detail in this image. I think the diagonal lines make for a strong abstract image. I wondered if the image were flipped horizontally, it would be even stronger. As we read from left to right, our eye would be led in to land on the porthole, placed well on the top third and the sharpest part of the image. It's highly commended for Brian Lay Yee. An early settler's sod cottage. I commend the author for composing the image off to the side, creating good diagonals. They have managed to achieve lots of the details despite the dull light. The greenery adds a pleasing frame to the structure. Merit. Beauty in age. My eye is immediately drawn to the two acute triangles lit against the black sky. What intrigues me is they create an optical illusion in that I don't know which way they face until I look further down towards the windows. The author may like to reconsider the crop to exclude the extracting elements at the left bottom edge. Merit. Blending into nature. I enjoy the way the structure has been dwarfed by the lovely autumn foliage, but I can still make out all the details. I think the composition has been thoughtfully considered to ensure the foreground trees do not block our view of the windows. Merit. Blue. Our bridge can be very interesting to photograph at night, particularly when the coloured lights are on. The blues and purples are very vibrant. I would like to suggest when the author goes out there again to adjust the tripod a fraction to ensure good separation between the bridge and the top of the tower. Merit. Caretaker needed. Yes, I imagine the rooms in this building would be a lot brighter if the creeper had a good trim, and I would be able to see more of the man-made structure. Accepted. Centuries old, still standing. Gosh, those dwellings seem to defy gravity. I think this image depicts man-made structures well. The story of ingenuity when space is at a premium is very evident here. The inclusion of the fisherman adds to the story of daily life. Highly commended for Lynn Fothergill. Cogs and wheels. The shallow depth of field used here concentrates my attention on the very centre of the chain. I think the diagonal composition works well. The surrounding red adds nice contrast. I don't think the wheel on the left adds anything to the image, and I think it would be stronger if it were excluded. I encourage the author to experiment with the image to find the crop they like best. Accepted. Corridor of light. The angular nature of this image really appeals to me. The precise composition is very strong. The reflections in the floor add another element of interest. The strip lighting is a clever and effective design element, and the author has used this to create a very pleasing abstract image. Well done. That's an honours for Tina Pakipaki. Crystalline, Len Lai Centre. I think the black and white treatment here has been an excellent choice because with so much going on in the reflections, the use of colour may have been distracting. Instead, the author has chosen to just feature on the strong graphic elements contrasted against the soft nature of the sky. Nice work. That's an honours for Brian Lay Yee. Dismemberment abstracted. I have seen many photographs of this structure, but none as interesting as this. I love the dominant curved edge of the ellipse. The inclusion of just the 5 stays causing curves in the opposite direction of the stretched PVC. The hillside and fence adds a good anchor to the bottom of the image. The strong diagonals flowing left to right, although they extend out of the image, my eye is drawn back into the image along the edge of the ellipse. That's an honours for Brian Lay Yee. Farm jalopy. A nice farm scene of the old truck which has lots of detail and rusting texture. The manual hand signal made me smile. There's nothing wrong with flipping an image to create a stronger compositional flow to an image. In fact, I encourage it. However, I do feel it should not be obvious. The back-to-front wording gives the game away here. Perhaps the author could revisit this image and try cloning out or blurring the writing, or if really talented with their processing software, flip the writing back the right way round. Accepted. Fountain Fantasia. Aerial views are becoming more and more popular with the increasing use of drones. They give us a new perspective on the world around us. The image is doing just that and making an interesting abstract besides. The inclusion of people allows us to gauge the scale of the structure. The tracks leading to and around the fountains make interesting patterns and uncover the elements that would be hidden if viewed from the ground. I would like to encourage the author to revisit the crop and try and eliminate the grey line at the bottom. Highly commended for Chris Jaggs. House for Rent. Salubrious Living. I'm sorry, I've left the salubrious living part off the title. I note the occupants of this dwelling are not keen gardeners. However, the flowers are pretty and add to the story of decay and neglect. The choice to shoot from the corner to show 2 sides of the building was a good one, in my opinion, adding strong lines. I would like to suggest backing up a little or zooming out to include the tip of the roof and give a little space above. Sometimes our images need breathing space around the subject to make comfortable viewing for the viewer. Be careful too with the spot healing tool. If not done well, it can produce a more distracting element than the part you are trying to hide in the first place. Accepted. Huinga Cheese Factory. I really like the clean, simple design of the composition and the black and white treatment of this image and the grungy look of the walls. Causing me some visual anxiety, though, are the leaning verticals. This happens particularly with tall buildings, making them look as though they are leaning backwards. It can be corrected in software, but sometimes make old buildings look old and top-heavy. Another solution would be to back away and zoom the lens in. Merit. Isola San Giulio. Isola San Giulio. A nice landscape shot of these old dwellings. There is lovely light on the buildings, making the yellows really pop. The hazy green makes a nice backdrop. Merit. JHB Vibe. The tones in this image are lovely. The textures, particularly the drain pipes, are very interesting. My curiosity is piqued as to the purpose and function of this place, and my imagination runs riot. Is the green circle a dance floor? I imagine some street-savvy youngsters practicing their breakdancing here. Or is it the factory smoker hangout? I don't know, but it's very interesting. If I look beyond function and just look at form and shape, it is a very graphic, abstract image. That's an honours for Lee Waddell. No title. This image suggests more about the function of the man-made structure than showcasing the structure itself. I quite like the outside of the box of the interpretation of the set subject. The image showing all the flying dirt suspended in space speaks to me of speed, endurance, performance, and strength, all competently captured by the author. Highly commended by Torben Nielsen. Old BNZ, Ohuda Road, Matieri. I bet this building was really something to behold when it was just painted. The lighting is very flat, and I wonder if shot at a different time of day would help to add some dimension and drama to that lovely blue. Accepted. Path of Light. The use of strong leading lines and contrasting blacks and whites really make this image shout, walk on ahead. I love the soft pools of light on the ground forming interesting shapes which would not be seen if this image was shot during the day. As I walk through, I get lost in the street lamps. I find the red-lit tower as a final resting place for my eye. It's a highly commended for Daryl Knight. Reclaimed by nature. A very busy image texturally, but broken up by the smooth blues on the roof. This lifts the dwelling out from the heavily wooded background. Accepted. Safe way over. A very different view of what I think is the same bridge seen earlier, but this time showcasing the shape and form of the structure itself and the structures underneath. There is some loss of details in the highlights on the bridge, and perhaps shooting in the blue hour would have helped the camera cope better with a more even dynamic range. Merit. Stargazer. The full moon in that position tells me the sun is behind the author, and I know that to be true because I can see the soft light on the metal of the building giving depth to the round structure. There appears to be a lot of noise in the image, particularly in the sky, probably caused by the use of high ISO. I am sure this can be smoothed in post-processing. Merit. Taj Mahal, man-made masterpiece. How beautifully framed is this image? Note how the shape mirrors the shape of the Taj Mahal exactly and how carefully the building has been placed inside the frame. Note too how the direction of the light has given so much definition to the artwork on the walls of the framing. Time of day and direction of light are everything in a successful image. The colour in the sky suggests dusk or dawn, more likely dawn as there are no other visitors. Lovely work. That's an honours for Lynn Fothergill. The historical Pukekohe Railway Station. These old stations are lovely and I hope they are preserved for a long time to come. Shot at blue hour means an interesting, colourful sky. I like how the lines formed by the rail track and platform lead my eyes around and up over the roof along the bridge. Merit. Tower of Basilica di San Giulio. I like the vibrant blue of the sky in this image. The tower itself has lots of interesting textures, but it is a little overexposed, particularly at the bottom. Perhaps the author can try reducing the exposure in post-processing. Accepted. Travel in time. The brickwork of this railway tunnel is very interesting. I like how the moss adds a contrasting green. The tight crop at the top is causing some visual tension for me. Always try and leave a bit of more room than you think you will need when composing. The out-of-focus fern in the foreground is a little bright and falls across the tunnel mouth. Taking a step to the left and choosing a smaller aperture would reduce both those distractions. Accepted. Trondheim waterfront houses. Nice. Congested roads, not a problem for these folk. When the light is favourable, for me I like to zoom in on the details. Those reflections in the water look interesting. There is a lot to look at in this image, and I feel zooming in on one building or one boat or half the buildings might have made for a stronger image. Often, less is more. Accepted. Urban abstract. And this author has done exactly that, zoomed in on just a section of the building to create a very striking image with very black blacks and white whites. The strong vertical and diagonal lines make for a very strong graphic image. That's an honours for Torben Nielsen. And the set image of the night for May 2020 is Corridor of Light by Tina Pakipaki. Well done, Tina. Thanks, everyone.